Have you ever wondered what it takes for a good person, kind, compassionate, and ethical, to commit cruel acts, or even become a monster? Imagine someone you respect and trust turning into a person you barely recognize. What if I told you that this is not a rare occurrence, but a pattern observed in history and human behavior? Today, we will dive into one of the most provocative and troubling questions about human nature. Why do good people sometimes do bad things? By the end of this video, you will learn the shocking mechanisms that push ordinary people into darkness. More importantly, we will learn to recognize and resist these forces. And this final insight will be the most important and encouraging. This journey takes us deep into psychological experiments, historical events, and philosophical reflections, revealing the fine line between good and evil. This is not just a story about others. It is a mirror that forces us to look inside and ask ourselves, what would I have done in their place? Could these forces have swayed me too? Stay with me, because what you learn today could radically change your perception of the world. The Lucifer effect is a concept introduced by psychologist Philip Zimbardo after his infamous Stanford prison experiment, revealing how environments and roles influence human behavior deeply. Zimbardo showed that even the most virtuous individuals can become harmful perpetrators when placed in certain roles and obeying authority figures. History is filled with ordinary people committing extraordinary atrocities, like guards in Nazi camps and soldiers involved in ethnic cleansing. Even bystanders who remained silent as horrors unfolded were often regular people caught in circumstances that unleashed dark human nature. These individuals were not born evil, but swept up by psychological and social forces that altered their behavior drastically. Why does this happen? The answer lies in a mix of psychological and social factors shaping behavior in powerful ways. Authority's power is critical. Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments in the 1960s demonstrated this by asking people to deliver shocks. Participants were told to shock another person who was actually an actor, pretending to be in pain. Shockingly, most participants continued to administer shocks even when the actor showed clear signs of distress. They believed they were causing severe harm simply because they were told to do so. Now think about your own life and how often we follow instructions without questioning them, whether it's from a boss, a leader, or even societal norms. What would you do if someone in power asked you to compromise your morals for the greater good? Another critical factor is the concept of dehumanization. When we strip others of their humanity, labeling them as the enemy or subhuman, it becomes easier to justify cruelty. This tactic is used repeatedly in propaganda, war, and even everyday conflicts. It is easier to harm someone when you no longer see them as a person. Consider the language we use today in social and political discourse. How often do we see groups reduced to labels or stereotypes? Reflect on how this diminishes empathy. This creates an us versus them mentality. But dehumanization is only part of the puzzle. Social roles and group dynamics also play a significant role. Zimbardo's Stanford prison experiment vividly demonstrated this. College students were randomly assigned to be either guards or prisoners in a controlled environment. Under simulated prison conditions, guards began to show cruelty within just a few days, while prisoners exhibited signs of severe stress and submission. It's astonishing how quickly participants lost their individuality and fully embraced the roles assigned to them. This makes one reflect on the formation of our personality. How strongly does society shape our personality? Are we truly free in our actions, or do we subconsciously play roles imposed by the system? Power, dehumanization, and group dynamics are not just theories. They actively influence our thinking, behavior, and attitudes toward others in everyday life. We observe these forces at work, in schools, social networks, and even within families. Awareness of this is the first step toward resisting them. But what about the tipping point, when a good person crosses the line? This moment is often unnoticed and begins with small compromises. The decision to stay silent in the face of injustice, agreeing to play along just this once. All of this accumulates and leads to serious moral mistakes. Pause. Think. Have you ever made such small decisions? How did they affect your personality and moral beliefs? Have you ever made a choice against your values because it seemed easier or safer? What consequences did you face afterwards? We will explore recognizing such moments before they worsen. More importantly, we will discover how to build resilience against these psychological pressures that push us toward compromising our values. But first, let's address a deeper question. Are some people immune to the Lucifer effect? Or is it a danger that affects us all? Stay tuned, because what follows will challenge everything you believe about yourself and human nature. This topic questions the core of our identity. Now we face the pressing question. Are some truly immune to the Lucifer effect? The uncomfortable answer is that none of us are fully immune. Psychologists have debated if personality traits help resist corruption and moral collapse. Traits like empathy, self-awareness, and moral courage can provide protection. Yet, under certain circumstances, whether right or wrong, anyone can succumb to these forces that lead to moral failure. Think about it. Within each of us lies the potential for both tremendous good and unimaginable harm. This duality is a common theme in literature. Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychiatrist, described this as the shadow of our psyche, the dark, often suppressed parts of our self that we do not want to acknowledge. Jung believed that to fully understand ourselves, we must confront this shadow and integrate it into consciousness to become more whole. Have you ever experienced an outburst of anger or envy that even surprised you? Or said something in a fit of emotion that you deeply regretted later? These are manifestations of the shadow in action. If left unchecked, it can grow and manifest in behavior reminiscent of the Lucifer effect. But there is also good news. Awareness is our main defense. By understanding the psychological mechanisms of moral decline, we can resist them. Let's take a closer look at how these forces operate in the real world and how we can counteract them. One of the most insidious mechanisms is moral disengagement, according to psychologists. It is a way to justify harmful behavior while avoiding feelings of guilt. This concept was introduced by psychologist Albert Bandura. It explains how people convince themselves that everyone does it to avoid remorse. The belief that the ends justify the means creates psychological distance between people and their actions, making it easier to justify wrongdoing in everyday life situations. For example, a student might cheat on an exam telling themselves it is only a one-time event and does not reflect their true character. Similarly, a manager may treat employees unfairly, believing harsh actions are necessary to achieve company goals and meet expectations. In such moments, moral disengagement allows people to act against their values without feeling guilt or remorse for their behavior. The antidote to moral disengagement is called moral vigilance, which means actively questioning our actions and their outcomes, even when it feels uncomfortable. This involves asking ourselves if we are justifying something that deep down we know to be wrong, encouraging honesty with our conscience. Another strong tool is cultivating empathy, which counters dehumanization by helping us see others as complex, feeling individuals. When we truly recognize others' hopes, fears, and dreams, it becomes much harder to harm or dismiss them. This is why storytelling, art, and genuine human connections are vital. They remind us of our common humanity. These elements break down barriers that divide us and foster empathy and understanding among individuals and communities. But what about society? How do we address the larger systems and structures that perpetuate harm and enable wrongdoing? Understanding and changing these systemic issues requires collective awareness, effort, and moral vigilance on a societal scale. The Lucifer effect on a grand scale shows the vital role of leadership and collective responsibility in shaping societies, for better or worse. History teaches us this clearly. Charismatic leaders can either uplift entire societies or corrupt them deeply. Adolf Hitler manipulated fear and prejudice to justify horrific atrocities against millions of people. Conversely, leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. inspired positive change and resistance against injustice through peaceful means and moral courage. This raises a crucial question. What kind of leader do we choose to follow? And what influence do we have on others in our daily lives and communities? Every day we face difficulties, but there is an inspiring truth. Circumstances can lead people astray or guide them towards goodness, courage, and honesty. The same forces that create villains can create heroes. So how do we stay on the path of good and develop the strength to resist the Lucifer effect? Even without traditional authority, everyone holds influence within families, workplaces, and communities. The key is whether we use it to promote compassion or to deepen harm and division. Reflect on your life. Who do you admire? What values do they represent? And importantly, what example do you set for those who look up to you? Examining forces like authority, moral disengagement, dehumanization, and leadership reveals that the battle between good and evil is not only external, but an internal struggle within each individual. The answers to these questions await us in the next section. We will explore practical strategies for recognizing and resisting forces that lead to moral errors. These strategies have been tested by psychologists, spiritual leaders, and ordinary people who have faced unusual challenges in life. An important conclusion we will consider, the most transformative of all, can change not only your attitude towards others, but also towards yourself. To resist the forces that lead us astray, one must understand, awareness alone is not enough. Recognizing the Lucifer effect is an important, but not the only step. We need effective strategies to counteract its influence. Let's start with the concept of moral courage, the ability to act ethically. Stand up for what is right, even in the face of fear, resistance, or personal loss. It compels a person to oppose injustice and protect the vulnerable. Moral courage manifests when a person admits a mistake, even though it is easier to remain silent. This quality is not innate, but developed through practice and reflection. Recall historical figures, such as Rosa Parks, who refused to give up her seat on the bus, sparking the civil rights movement. Or remember whistleblowers exposing corruption, often risking their lives and futures for truth and justice. These people were not free from fear, but chose to act despite it. So how can one develop moral courage in their own life? Start by defining your core values, the principles that matter to you. These could be honesty, compassion, fairness, or responsibility. Recall instances of moral dilemmas. Did you act in accordance with these values, or did you compromise? A practical exercise is to imagine yourself in difficult situations. What would you do if you witnessed bullying at work? How would you react if you were forced to carry out an unethical order? Visualizing such scenarios helps you prepare. When you practice and prepare your response, you strengthen your ability to act decisively at the right moment. This preparation helps you face challenges with confidence and clarity. Another important strategy is to build strong social connections with people who share your values. Surrounding yourself with supportive and principled individuals helps resist negative influences. These relationships provide accountability and encouragement, making it easier to resist pressures of conformity and authority. Being part of a supportive community strengthens moral conviction. But what happens when we face systems or environments designed to erode our morals? This is when situational awareness becomes crucial for preserving integrity. Situational awareness means recognizing subtle cues and dynamics that influence behavior. For example, pay attention to group norms and what is accepted or expected in that environment. If you notice patterns of exclusion, dishonesty, or harm, question them. Ask yourself, is this truly right? Or have I accepted it just because everyone else has? Also, consider the power of small actions in creating change. Often we feel powerless against systemic issues, but even small acts of resistance matter. Think about the ripple effect. One person's choice to act with integrity can inspire others to do the same, creating a wave of positive change. In the workplace, speaking out against unethical practices seems risky, but it can inspire others to also voice their concerns and doubts. Similarly, choosing kindness and understanding in everyday interactions helps combat the culture of dehumanization that often permeates society. Let's turn to the importance of self-reflection. The philosopher Socrates said that a life without self-examination is not worth living. Self-reflection helps identify our biases, acknowledge mistakes, and grow beyond ourselves. It's not about perfection, but about constant progress. Becoming a little better and a little more mindful each day is a useful habit that changes life gradually but surely. Regularly ask yourself, what motivated my actions today? Did I show respect and empathy towards others? Were there moments when I stayed silent, though I should have spoken up? Such questions help train intentional and honest behavior. And what about the main question? Is it possible to completely neutralize the Lucifer effect? The answer depends on the individual and society. The key to developing the so-called heroic imagination, according to psychologist Philip Zimbardo, Heroic imagination is a mindset that allows ordinary people to perform exceptional acts in difficult situations. Belief that each of us can change the world helps us understand. Heroism is accessible not only to exceptional people, but to everyone. Start with small acts of kindness. For example, you can support someone who is being unfairly bullied, help those in need, or simply choose kindness over indifference in everyday situations. Study the lives of heroes, from historical figures to modern-day fighters for change. Their examples remind us that courage and compassion are available to everyone. You may be wondering what the most important understanding is. That can change your view of yourself and the world. The answer lies in realizing the deep interconnectedness of humanity. The boundary between good and evil does not run between nations or groups, but runs through the heart of every person, as Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote. This awareness simultaneously humbles and empowers. It reminds us that each of us is capable of both evil and good. Healing empowers us with the ability to choose. Every moment offers a new chance to act with integrity and resist darkness. We can build a world based on compassion and justice. Stay with me as we explore deeper how to apply these ideas in your life. Together, we will find practical steps to resist the Lucifer effect. We will learn how to become a force for good in a world that desperately needs positive change and light during difficult times. So far, we uncovered psychological mechanisms that push good people toward darkness. Authority, moral disengagement, dehumanization, and group influence. We studied how awareness, moral courage, empathy, and self-reflection act as shields against these harmful forces. These qualities help protect our moral compass. Now let's focus on what you can do starting today to become not just resilient, but a source of light in tough circumstances. The first step is recognizing your influence. No matter how small your role seems, you shape your environment with every interaction. You contribute to the norms and values guiding others. Ask yourself, are you encouraging kindness and fairness in your surroundings? Are you silently allowing harmful behaviors to continue, or do you take responsibility? Consider the story of Oskar Schindler, who changed history through small actions. Schindler was a German industrialist during the Second World War, initially driven by profit, but later using his resources to save over 1,000 Jewish lives. His story shows how one person, even in history's darkest times, can make a profound difference through courage and determination. You don't need extraordinary circumstances to follow his example. You can begin in your community, workplace, or family by speaking out against injustice. Offer support to those who feel isolated. Challenge stereotypes and assumptions that divide people around you every day. These small acts, when done by many, can transform not only individual lives but entire communities in powerful ways. Another important step is to educate yourself and others. Knowledge is among the most powerful tools against manipulation and moral decay. Study history, psychology, and philosophy to understand why people make certain choices. Share this knowledge to inspire meaningful conversations. Do not preach or lecture. Instead, spark reflection and inspire others to think deeply about their actions and beliefs. Have you ever thought about how much the stories we watch and read shape our thoughts? Films, books, and media influence our ideas of good and evil, right and wrong. By seeking stories that challenge your beliefs and expand your viewpoint, you develop a richer and more compassionate understanding of the world around you. Let's also consider resilience when facing pressure. Standing up for what is right often carries risks like social rejection, professional consequences, or even personal loss. Resilience doesn't mean being without fear. It means acting according to your values even when fear is present and strong within you. To build resilience, focus on activities that strengthen your mental and emotional health, such as mindfulness, meditation, journaling, or seeking advice from mentors and trusted friends. Surround yourself with people who support and inspire you. Resilience grows not in isolation, but through connection with others who uplift you. But what happens when we fail? Inevitably, there will be times when fear or pressure overwhelms us, and we act in ways we regret later. This is the moment where self-forgiveness becomes essential. It allows us to accept our mistakes and learn, rather than being trapped by guilt and shame. Self-forgiveness becomes essential. It is not about excusing harmful behavior, but about recognizing mistakes, taking responsibility, and deciding to improve in the future. It means understanding failure is part of being human. Growth often comes from facing our flaws honestly. Take a moment to think about your own experiences. Have you ever failed to live up to your values? How did you react? Did you learn and grow? Or did you let that failure define who you are? The ability to forgive yourself and others is a powerful tool. It helps break harmful cycles caused by the Lucifer effect, freeing you from guilt and resentment. Forgiveness allows you to move forward with clarity and purpose. It stops you from being weighed down by negative emotions that hold you back. Now consider the deepest insight: humanity's interconnectedness. The line between good and evil exists in every human heart, making compassion essential. This understanding does not excuse harmful behavior, but encourages empathy and a commitment to healing instead of judgment. Every action, no matter how small, sends waves into the world. Will your actions contribute to division and harm, or unite people and inspire hope? Imagine a world where each of us takes responsibility for our own choices, resisting forces that destroy humanity and divide people. In such a world, we strive to create conditions that support compassion and honesty. This is not an unattainable ideal, but a reality that can be built step by step. As this journey comes to an end, I offer you one last challenge. Reflect on what you have learned today and how you will apply it in your life. Reflect on the ripple effects of your actions. Every choice you make influences others in ways you might not see immediately. How do you recognize and resist the forces that lead you away from your values? How will you contribute to a world where good triumphs over darkness? The answers to these questions are not simple, but they are worth seeking. After all, the battle between good and evil does not take place on distant battlefields, but inside each of us every day. Next time you face a moral choice, remember, you have the power to choose. You possess this power every day. You have the strength to resist, and you have the power to become a force of good in a world that desperately needs it. The question is whether you will rise to the challenge. Thank you for your attention.